Welcome to the Tech Savvy Podcast. I'm your host, and today we're diving into an exciting topic, the AWS SDK for Go v2. If you're a developer or just tech curious, you might have heard about this powerful toolkit, but what is it and why should you care? The AWS SDK for Go v2 is essentially a software development kit that allows you to interact with Amazon Web Services APIs using the Go programming language. And here's the kicker. It requires Go version 1.21 or later, so if you're still on an older version, it might be a good time for an upgrade. Now you might wonder, what's new with v2? Well, the team at AWS has made some significant improvements. It's built to offer a smoother experience, including better error handling and a more streamlined way to make API requests. For developers, this can mean less time wrestling with the SDK and more time building amazing applications. So that's something to get excited about. Let's talk about getting started with AWS SDK for Go v2. First up, you'll need to set up your project for Go modules. If you're not familiar with Go modules, don't worry. It's a straightforward process. You start by creating a new directory for your project, initializing it, and retrieving the SDK dependencies. This is where you would type commands like go get, which, sounds like a simple fetch command, but is actually quite powerful in the Go world. Once you've got the basics down, you can jump into writing code. Imagine you want to interact with DynamoDB, a popular NoSQL database service. You can create a basic application in just a few lines of code. For instance, you will load the SDK configuration and instantiate a DynamoDB client, which allows you to interact with your tables. How cool is that? As we dive deeper, if you make a request to list your DynamoDB tables, you may get results like Table 1 and Table 2. It's like peeking into your digital warehouse. Exciting, right? Now, if you run into any bumps along the way, AWS has you covered with a range of community resources. You can check out GitHub issues for bugs or feature requests, or even ask questions in the discussion forums. Remember, everyone in the forum was once a beginner too, so don't hesitate to join the conversation. Speaking of conversations, let's ponder this. How do you balance the need for robust tools while also keeping the learning curve manageable? It's a question that many developers face. It keeps evolving with new technologies every day. Before we wrap up, let's highlight a few resources you might find handy. The SDK Developer Guide is your best buddy when you're learning to navigate this SDK. If you're transitioning from an earlier version, the SDK Migration Guide is a must-read. And of course, the API reference documentation is like a goldmine for specific service requirements and examples. It seems like there's so much potential in leveraging AWS SDK for Go v2, but it's all about making it work for you. As we close today's episode, I invite you to explore this SDK. Whether you're looking to revamp an existing application or start a new project from scratch, this toolkit can empower your journey into the world of cloud development. Thanks for tuning into the Tech Savvy Podcast. I hope you found today's discussion enlightening. Feel free to share your thoughts or questions about AWS or Go programming with us. Until next time, keep coding and stay curious.